And we're joined now over the phone by Dr. Gamal Qaliouby, the Professor of Petroleum and Energy Engineering. Dr. Qaliouby, good evening, sir.
Good evening to you.
Dr. Qaliouby, first off, this is the 7th edition of Egypt's 2024. What is the significance of holding such an exhibition here in Egypt, and what are the outcomes that we're hoping to achieve?
Firstly, just want to try to explain to you that the beginning that Egypt since 7 years have been such activities for aiming to improving the orientation and the development of the oil and gas investment in Egypt, as the Egypt itself, the country, and also as a region. For that reason, the international exhibitions for that one have been include a lot of countries in such conference. They had sharing for over 12 countries. Talk about China, India, Emirates, Italy, France, England. So with a lot of countries have been shared, and they still insist to go for such activity. In that edition number 7, which is every time that we have another visions and another topics which have been as significant in terms of Egyptian economy, and apart also that Egypt is dealing and inclusively has a lot of activities with a lot of foreigners investment in terms of petroleum investment and also in natural gas. In that addition, there is 3 main topics. The first one that has been considered, the energy transmission to move from the traditional oil and the gas to less emission of oxidized carbons to green energy. And that's the first topic, which is very significant, with a lot of researching, over 300 researching will discuss that topics. The second topic, which also ultimate significant, it's the second part of ahead of the challenges well affected that the energy sources in Africa, and how is the example of the Egypt challenge and success story to Egypt have been converted. A country has a shortage in the gas, shortage in electricity, to a country has a sufficient of gas and also oversaturation of electricity production. Such an example is a real example to a lot of African countries, and for that such kind of activities, the conference will deal and discuss what kind of challenges have been encountered in almost all African countries and how to overcome such activities. The third one is how to give a winner for which technology of the international oil investment companies have been applied and executed in reality to reduce the emission of carbons. Such awarding will be very significant to encourage all the foreign companies, even working in Egypt or even within the Middle East, that has a good real example to reduce the emission. The 3 topics that I try to explain to you, that it will be contributed for today and tomorrow and after tomorrow, and still we looking for a very good conclusion. On the other side, as you mentioned in your report, that there is a lot of meetings and appointments in part of that one with the highest score companies dealing in oil investments like BP, Naai, like also Apache. A lot of such very huge activities companies has a lot of activities in Egypt and contributed a big portion of oil productions and natural gas in Egypt. And for such an appointment has been done, which is in a regular quarter-year basis with the President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. Our President is in continuous supporting and also insists to have meetings with all such great companies investing in Egypt, like BP, like Eni, like Apache, as I said to you, in a quarter annual basis, which allow to discuss with them what kind of investment, what their plans, what kind of project in going to execute, and also what kind of support, what kind also of solution can deliver to support the projects and avoid any kind of presentation or difficulties. All such encouragement from the presidential side encourage such a company, a great company, to deal more and more activities. And there is a promising from PT British Petroleum that to improve their exploration phase for oil and and also natural gas with a project up to $1.3 billion. In addition to another activities dealing with the better strategy of Egypt, which will help to go for a green energies. And such activities, there is a portion between British Petroleum and the government for producing liquefied hydrogen, green hydrogens in beside to the NH3 ammonia liquefied green fuel. All such manufacturing has been dealing with the government, and a lot of protocols in going and processing to go for a dedicated time, and mega projects will be start very soon.
Dr. Qaliouby, now one of the main challenges that the President has actually raised for the energy sector was the funding, and since 2015 and the Paris Agreement, the developed countries have vowed $100 billion for the African continent and the countries that are working on reducing or the mitigation of climate change issues. Now, how are we supposed to fund such huge projects, and the whole world is embarking on renewable energy, and we're talking about green hydrogen, and we're talking about all of the effects of the CO2 emission? How are we supposed to expect to fund such huge projects? Because it's all nice and dandy up until someone needs to pay these bills and these expenses.
Right, so that's reasons, but let me to display back to you. A lot of the international investment, specifically for oil and gas, which is the main major parts, really damage and affect directly to the climate change. So whenever I try to go for investigating deeply what kind of agreement had been done before, like in Paris, there is a Paris agreement which had been pointed and also obligated that over $100 billion supposed to be expanded and distributed in a proper way for all the countries have been suffered from a lot of difficulties and a lot of change in the weather. It's reflected in their badly economy due to their suffer from a lot of flooding, any change also in the condition of the weather prevent them to go in proper condition for their agriculture and damage the affected their agriculture. Such countries are still waiting or supporting to improve their to give a subsidy to their economy. But according to the reality, since the last meetings in Paris, calm weather condition conference till now, there is nothing has been affected. But there is a commitment has been done also, which is another orientation, another execution in the previous COP26 have been held in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. And I think that our president has been highlighted that very pointed to the point that we need to help indirectly, and Egypt will start to execute the realities of all the foreigner companies we have. We got a delegation with them that we shall go and proceed to reduce carbon emissions directly. And since that time, for 1 year and almost 1 year plus and a half, you will find that a reduction in, as had been announced in the last report by government in Egypt, that we have 2.4 million tons of carbon emissions have been reduced from all produced by gas, natural gas, or even by the very traditional oil fuel. Such a way of Egypt has been reflected to all the companies also working in Egypt, foreign companies. So we have a program, and really obligated program in front of the government, has been already supervised and also monitoring by our Ministry of Petroleum for all such companies, that we have a really program executed to reduce such carbon emissions as our obligation as a country. So put Egypt as a real consideration example to be reflected for the others. And also don't forget that it's a standard policy now for all for all Europe or Western companies. They already consider in their policy a budget to expand it for and expenditures to reduce all carbon emission for any kind of oil and gas investment. And besides that one, that we have a commitment to convert a lot of our fuel now as a Egypt from traditional oil to the natural gas, using that in our houses, and we have over now 15 million units in Egypt have been already used in natural gas. Besides that, we have over 540,000 cars have been converted from traditional fuel, oil fuel, to the natural gas, which reduce also the carbon emissions. Such activities try to be part of execute and part by commitment for the oil and the gas companies, and also obligation of the government.
Hopefully so. Dr. Gamal Qaliouby, the Professor of Petroleum and Energy Engineering, thank you very much for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be following the Egypt's 2024 over the next couple of days, and hopefully positive binding resolutions will be at the end of such an exhibition. Now, turning our attention to the situation in Gaza, Egypt is playing a very pivotal role in dealing with the diplomacy and the negotiations besides the delivery of humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.